Hello, this is Andrine, a Jewish American priestess, and I'm coming to you today on Rosh Chodesh Tevet, the first day of the new moon of Tevet, which is also, I guess, the first day of the new moon of Capricorn. And it's been a little while since I've done a reading because I have been sick and I'm having a hard time keeping my candle lit, which is, I guess, in some ways indicative of how I'm doing. And yet I trust that I'm here in right time for lighting up the darkness. This is the seventh night of Hanukkah, moving toward the solstice where the light begins to return again. Boy, my candle's burning so dim. It's such an interesting metaphor and a reality for me. Let's set this here and we'll see if it'll hold. So this is why my voice is a little bit off, and this is why I took a little break. But today I'm going to do a full spread reading. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to shuffle up my Hebrunes in the bag, and then I'm going to set them all out. I'm just going to dump the whole bag out onto the altarpiece here. Let's move this book, and then we'll read them where they lay. I may have to move this shadow box, but let's give it a try and see what comes up. So the way I do a full spread reading is, first of all, I take out all the Hebrunes that ended up face down in the spread. A bunch of them over here. I leave the Ein Sof though, because that's always interesting to see where it ends up. Okay, so then we'll read what's left here. And I'm just going to start in the upper right today, and I'm going to do that because this is the highest point in the reading today. Let me slide this over. I don't know if we can see it. I'll pick each one up in turn. And what we have on the very top of the upper left is the letter Hey. And the letter Hey is the letter that begins the word Hineni, which means presence, here I am. And so it seems to be, for me, the top point of the reading. The whole of all of the most important thing here is to remain present as we go into this month. And that follows because it is a month of turning and transitioning, looking inward. And the only way we can do that is to remain present to the divine. He is two of the four-letter divine name, the Yud He Vav He. So sometimes I like to say that half of divinity is just showing up. So let's make sure to show up for ourselves, and maybe for each other, but mostly for ourselves and for the divine right now at this time as we go into the darkness of the solstice. Next, coming down a little bit, we have the letter Kuf. Kuf, which is the first letter of the word Kadosh, or Chodesh, which means sacredness. Find our sacredness. Find this time to be a sacred time. It is a sacred time. I mean, all time is sacred on some level, but we're spending this time, again, introspecting, and we're looking at the light that we can strike up in the darkness at this time of year, because the earth has gone quiet and a little cold and dark. And so we need to find the holy sparks in all that we do at this time of year. And we have the letter Tet up here as well. The letter Tet is the first letter of the word Tov, which means good. And you can see it looks a little bit like a cup or a vessel. Some say it's a womb space. And so it's about gestation. It's about finding the goodness within, waiting, as we are sitting at this time in the darkness, waiting for the light to return. Tet is the number 9 in Gematria, and to that end it has this connotation of the 9 months of pregnancy. And so we're gestating something right now, gestating something good. And I love that in this particular piece of wood, if you can see that, there's a little tiny white dot right in the center, as if the sun is rising. And if we can look really deeply within the darkness, we'll find that spark of light, of goodness within us. As we come across here, I'm seeing the letter Zayin, and Zayin is a sword or a scepter. It's the number 7 in Gematria. And so it talks about completions, 7 days of creation coming to completion. And because it is the number 7, it has this association with the divine bride, the Shekhinah, the Shabbat bride. And that's her scepter, right? That's her sword. She has got all the power here. And we have that power within us as well, if we can tap into it. So find our divinity, find the Shekhinah, find the indwelling presence of the divine, and claim our power, is what this is telling me right now. I think I'm going to drop down here into the lower right corner. In the lower right corner, we have the letter Tzadi, which is the first letter of the word tzedek or tzadik, meaning justice or righteous one. And so our righteousness maybe is a little bit, I'm going to say it's low in the reading, so it's a little bit maybe in question right now, that we're trying to find justice and we're having a challenge there. And if we are having a challenge there, it's important to remember that goodness is within, with the Tet, that there is holiness and sacredness, and that if we remain present, things will be shown to us in terms of justice. And then we have this whole cluster right here. So let's take them one at a time from right to left. The rightmost one is the letter Samech. Samech is the letter that is affiliated with the previous month of Kislev that just ended. It's about being surrounded. It's a circle, so it talks to cycles and seasons. And it's also, in the Paleo or Proto-Hebrew, it was a thorn. So setting up maybe a thorny hedge around yourself, good boundaries, being surrounded with good boundaries. One thing that occurred to me recently is that the word boundary is, of course, of the same root as the word to bind. And so there's things that we need to bind for ourselves and to set up good protections for ourselves by binding things that are not serving us. And it's interesting because right now the month of Tevet is affiliated oftentimes with the devil card in tarot, which is about being bound. And maybe this is a good time to release our bounds right now in this month of darkness. And we're heading toward the solstice. But surround ourselves with good friends, with good protections, with our divine spirits and presences that will help us get through this dark time. And if we feel a little agitated or irritated, Samech refers to the foundation of agitation in the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, that we can bring ourselves back up to our inner power here with the Zayin. Next to this, we have the letter Ayin. Ayin is the letter that corresponds to this month of Tevet. And it's very low, but it's very central in our reading. So I would say that Ayin is here to remind us that we can see our way forward. It's representative of an eye. And so it's about being watched over by the divine and also being able to see our way in the darkness. So even though it's very low in the reading, we can see our way through. It's what comes after Samech. So it is the number 70, which is, again, a completion number because 7 days of creation, but 7 times 10, so an ultimate completion. And in this case, in the Gregorian calendar, it's the end of the year that's coming, the end of this season that's coming as we turn toward the light. And it's interesting that's right underneath the Zayin here. We have 7 and then we have 70. And it is, again, the month of Tevet. So let's see our way forward in this darkness, even if we're feeling low, like because of the darkness, because of the inability to maybe see as we like to normally see with all the light. We have to learn how to see in the dark. And just slightly above that, we have the letter Mem. Mem is the mother letter of water. And Mem corresponds to the winter in the year because it is in the northern hemisphere at any rate, the rainy season. So we have Mem having to do with water coming down, the coldness and wetness of the winter. But it is also a womb. It's the number 40 in Gematria, so it has that 40 weeks of gestation connotation. And similar to Tet, it's got the shape that's like a vessel, and this one particularly looks like a uterus. So something else gestating here. The darkness again gestating in the cold, wet time of year. But there's water here all around, and it's a cleansing water. A mikvah is a way to transform through water. So get into some hot water. You can take a nice bath. Get into a mikvah if that feels right to you. In some way, find cleansing. Wash your face, wash your hands frequently, 20 seconds, just to keep well. And trust the gestation time as we are heading to the darkest period of the year. Over here, a little bit further left and a little further down, we have the letter Tav. Tav is the letter that is the last letter of the alphabet, and it corresponds to the moon in the sky. It rules over the moon. So it seems really fitting that it would be here in our reading. Again, really low, because it's going to be low on the horizon in the northern hemisphere. The moon is here to remind us that everything changes and everything ends. Tav is the letter that talks about regeneration. So things come to an end, but something always begins again, just like the moon as it goes into her darkness and then returns to the light in the same way. The solstice brings us into the darkness and then returns us to the light. And we can see our way forward with hope, the promise of renewal that comes with the Tav. Tav is, like I said, the final letter of the alphabet. And if you take the first, center, and last letters of the alphabet, you get Emet. Emet meaning truth. So it's like a stamp or a seal on the truth that is divinity in our world. Slightly above the Tav, we have the letter Nun. The letter Nun, which is someone who is humble. Ne'eman is humility. And it's also the first letter of the word Nes, which means miracle, like on the dreidel where it says Nes Gadol Hayasham. Nes is a miracle. So if we can remain humble as we go into this phase of our life, we'll find the miracle as we come out the other side. Remain humble. I see Nun as corresponding to the hermit card, and this seems like a perfect time of year to go into a little bit of solitude. So find some humility, find a way to bend your knee and bow your head so that you can find the miracle in the darkness. And then we come into our last group of letters here. We have the Ein Sof, and it's very down low and on the left. Ein Sof is the unknown. The unknown, unseen, and the foundation of all things, that which came before and will come again after. It's the paper on which all the letters are drawn. It's the wood on which all the letters are carved. And it represents the infinite, the divine. And sometimes that can be difficult to wrestle with, which is why I think it's so far down on the reading. We've got this idea of the unknown, the unformed, the void, the Tahom, which is sometimes known as the deep. We're in this time of year where it's wet and cold and dark. And so we can't see our way forward always. We can trust that divinity is here and that divinity is the darkness itself. We have the letter Shin. The letter Shin, which is fire. The mother letter of fire represents the sun and the moon and the stars in the sky. All the fiery things. It's got those 3 flames on the top, 3 yuds, and 4 vavs. And so it's about that fire, like the yuds, which are like the first letter of the divine name, and the vavs, which are connections. And so we're connecting divinity with divinity, divinity with humanity, divinity with the world. So tap into that fire, tap into that warmth, surround yourself with lights of fire, candles, fireplace, friends, passion, all the things that will keep you warm in this dark time and this wet time of year. And at the very bottom left, we have the letter Dalet. Dalet is a doorway. It's the way through. It's the birth canal. How do we get born from this Tet and this Mem here? By coming through the doorway. So as we come through here, we end up coming through the doorway into the next iteration of the new season as we pass through the solstice this month. Dalet is the number 4, so it has a throwback to the 4 letters of the divine name, the Yud He Vav He, the 4 seasons and the 4 directions. And it has a stability to it. The door frame is a liminal space, but it will stay open as we pass through. It's like the Red Sea, as we pass through that birth canal to freedom, as we pass through this dark time toward light. And our last letter that I'm going to in the reading is the letter Chet. The letter Chet is the first letter of the word Chai. Chai meaning life. So we have life kind of as a promise here at the end of our reading. Chet is also what contracts and commitments and covenants. It looks like a marriage canopy, a chuppah, and it's the number 8. 8 is the 8th day, is the day on which we make a covenant for our children by giving them a name and or a circumcision. And 8 is that infinity loop. It's that concept of the infinite, again, going back to the Ein Sof. And it has this real touching in point with the divine. How do we make covenants with the divine? How do we make covenants with ourselves? How do we make covenants with others? It's by choosing life, choosing Chai. And also, Chet is the first letter of the word Choshech, which means darkness. The first time it appears in Torah is the word Choshech, darkness. So this is perfect to have it be in this position, kind of near the end of our reading, but up high, that we have the darkness to lean into. It's a holy darkness. You can see it's right across from the kuf. So we have this promise that in the darkness is holiness, that the darkness itself is holy. And we can lean into that as well. It's a beautiful reading for Tevet. So as we look at this full reading for Tevet, we have Hey in the upper right corner, which is remaining present through all of this. We have Kuf, which is about finding the sacredness in the situation in every moment. Tet, reminding us that there's goodness within the waiting period as we are waiting for the thing to be born. We have Zayin here in the center saying, find our inner power, tap in to connection with Shekhinah, the indwelling presence of the Shabbat bride. Maybe find some rest. That we are maybe having a challenge with justice, with our understanding of justice right now. But if we are, that we can, again, trust that there's goodness within and holiness, and that we can wait for that to be shown to us. That we're surrounding ourselves with protection right now, good boundaries. Again, in the winter time, when things are wet and cold, we are wading through this dark period of time, that we have the ability to see our way forward, even when things are dark. That as the year comes to an end, as the season comes to an end, as the darkness comes to an end, remain humble. The infinite is here. Light up some fires to show our way through the doorway. And when we do, we'll come through the darkness, find our life, find our contract and our commitment to ourselves, to the divine, and even to others. It's a beautiful reading for Tevet. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll hopefully get another reading up soon, and I'm going to work on getting well. Chodesh Tov. We'll see you next time.